Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Durham. Mr. Durham, after Inspector General Horowitz found serious errors last year with one aspect of the Russia investigation, but found accusations of a politically motivated FBI plot to be baseless, Donald Trump said, quote, "I look forward to the Durham report, which is coming out in the not too distant future. It's got its own information, which is this information," meaning the Horowitz information, plus, plus, plus. Mr. Durham, do you consider your report to be the Horowitz report plus, plus, plus? Can you turn your mic on? I'm sorry.
I suppose that's for other people to judge. The report speaks for itself, in my view.
Okay. Your one criminal conviction was for doctoring an email about a surveillance warrant, wasn't it?
That's correct.
And who referred this individual for prosecution?
That matter was referred by the Inspector General's office.
Okay. And this individual pleaded guilty, isn't that right?
That's correct.
Okay. And can you tell us what his sentence was?
He was sentenced to 12 months probation.
That's right.
For fabricating a document which was used to get a surveillance order on an American citizen.
Did you charge any high-level FBI or intelligence officials with a crime?
No.
Right, you did not. In your report, you are highly critical of the FBI's Russia investigation. Is that fair to say?
Certain aspects of it, yes.
Okay. Did you recommend new charges as a result of those criticisms?
We weren't able to prove matters. I couldn't say under the guiding principles that we'd be able to prove matters beyond a reasonable doubt because of lack of recollections, passages of time, inconsistent statements. So no, we didn't.
So no, you did not. Right. Did you suggest any significant changes to how future investigations should be conducted?
And I guess it's for others to judge whether there are significant suggestions or not. I think that more disciplined approaches to these matters can be affected by some of the recommendations we made, yes.
Okay. I would say you did not suggest any significant changes. In the FBI's statement in response to your report, it said that the FBI conduct you examined was, quote, "the reason that current FBI leadership already implemented dozens of corrective actions, which have now been in place for some time." Mr. Durham, do you know why the corrective actions have been in place for some time at the FBI?
I think I know, yes.
Okay. Is it because the Inspector General finished his report 3.5 years ago, making recommendations for changes that the FBI could make?
In part.
Okay. In the 4 years that you spent tracking down Donald Trump's conspiracy theories, other investigations were conducted and completed. These investigations and the Horowitz investigation primarily identified the problems with the FBI investigation. But the one thing the Horowitz report did not do was give Donald Trump and my MAGA Republican colleagues across the aisle talking points for their conspiracy theories. On that front, you delivered. I'd like to yield the remainder of my time to my colleague, Mr. Schiff.
Mr. Durham, your report attempts to make a case that the Clinton investigations of Clinton were given more favorable treatment to that of President Trump. But you leave out one very notable example, and that is your report makes no discussion of the fact that the email investigation into Hillary Clinton was made very public before the election, was it not? You had James Comey discussing Hillary Clinton's emails in the days leading up to the election?
If I follow your question, I don't think that the report says that the Clinton that Mrs. Clinton was given more favorable treatment. I think what the report says is that the FBI exercised some considerable discipline in how it was going to approach those matters as compared to how the FBI people who were involved in Crossfire Hurricane approached Crossfire Hurricane. I think that's what the report says.
Why, Mr. Durham, would you leave out the glaring contrast between the FBI's public discussion of the Clinton investigation right before the election and its keeping confidential the Trump investigation? Wasn't that a glaring disparity in how they were both treated?
I don't know. I mean, the
Really don't know the answer to that
FBI did and Mr. Comey did what they did. I was asked to...
Yes, they did what they did, and in glaring contrast to how they treated the Trump investigation, which was kept secret before the election, whereas the Clinton investigation was discussed publicly, affecting the outcome. Isn't that correct?
I can tell you that the FBI had that information and sat on it for months before they acted in making a public disclosure.
Gentleman's time has expired. The gentleman from Texas is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Durham, thank you for coming to testify.
But at this point, recognize Senator Cruz.
Good morning, Secretary Mayorkas.
Good morning.
Is there a crisis at our southern border?
Senator, there is a very significant...
That's a yes or no question.
There's a very significant...
Is there a crisis?
Senator, there's a very significant challenge...
I think your microphone is not on.
There is a very significant challenge that we are facing.
Yes or no,
at the
is
southern
there a
border.
crisis?
I believe I've addressed that question.
So you're refusing to answer?
Senator, there is a very significant challenge, and
Will you answer if there's a crisis?
Therefore, we are dedicating the resources...
Okay, so you're refusing to answer. Well, Secretary Mayorkas, I'll tell you someone who is willing to answer, which is your and President Biden's chief of the Border Patrol in a sworn deposition in July of 2022 when asked, would you agree, Chief Ortiz, that the southern border is currently in crisis? Answer, yes. Notice none of those wiggle words, none of that equivocation. One word, one syllable, yes. Are you willing to speak with the same clarity as Chief Ortiz? Is there a crisis at our southern border, yes or no?
Senator, I'm very proud to work alongside...
So you refuse to answer. Let me ask you the next question. Has the crisis at our southern border made Americans less safe, yes or no?
Senator, we are dedicated to the safety
Has the crisis made Americans less safe? I don't want a discourse. It's a yes or no question.
Senator, we have a challenge of
You refuse to answer the question. Mr. Secretary, let me show you how someone doing his job answers a question in a straightforward manner. Chief Ortiz, is the crisis that is currently ongoing at the southern border making the border less safe for Americans and aliens alike? Answer, yes. One word, one syllable, 3 letters. That's how someone answers a question and does their job. You're being a politician misleading the American people. Let me give you a chance again. Will you show the same integrity Chief Ortiz shows? Is the crisis at the southern border making Americans less safe? Yes or no?
Senator, we have 260,000
You refuse to answer the question. Let's move on.
And security of the
Next question, Mr. Mayorkas. Has the crisis made aliens less safe? Yes or no?
Senator, we are seeking...
So you won't answer that question either. It's a yes or no. Has it made aliens less safe?
Senator, smugglers are exploiting...
Has the crisis made aliens, yes, less safe? Are you willing to answer it?
Senator, the smuggling organizations...
Okay, you're filibustering again. Let me ask you this question. How many migrants have died under President Biden?
Senator, your phrasing of the question is actually quite misleading.
How many migrants died in 2022?
Approaching our southern border?
Yes.
Precisely why we are seeking to exclude the smuggling
do you know the answer? Do you know how many died?
I do not.
You do not. Of course you don't. I know how many died. 853.
That is
853. And by the way, here are the numbers that have died every year. You go back to 1998, you see it's consistently between 300 and 400, 300, 400, 300, 400. Suddenly, 2021, what happens? You get in office, and that red line are dead bodies. I've been on the Rio Grande, and I've seen dead bodies floating there who've drowned because of your refusal to do your job. You don't even know how many have died. What do you say to the Texas farmers and ranchers who find pregnant ladies dead on their property, who find toddlers dead on their property? What do you say to them?
I say that is why precisely we are taking it to the smuggling organizations.
But you are not. That is simply not true.
Number two, it is why we are dedicated.
Let me read from the Wall Street Journal. The Wall Street Journal 2 weeks ago ran an article entitled, "It's like a graveyard. Record numbers of migrants are dying at the border." The story begins with this chilling line, quote, Eagle Pass, Texas. Local officials keep a refrigerated truck to hold the bodies of migrants who drown in the currents of the Rio Grande while trying to cross the border into the U.S. Mr. Chairman, I ask unanimous consent that this article be entered into the record. Let me ask you a different question. How many children have been sexually assaulted by human traffickers under the Biden administration?
Senator, this is precisely why we instituted.
I don't want a lecture. It's a question. How many children have been sexually assaulted by human traffickers under your administration?
Senator, this is exactly why on January 5th we announced the parole
do you know
program.
how many? Do you know how many children have been sexually assaulted?
This is why we.
Okay, you're going to refuse to answer that question as well. Let's move on. It's obvious you've been instructed to stonewall, so I'm not going to let you. You don't get to stonewall and filibuster. Now, one of my Democratic colleagues before said the Democrat talking point